Who knew that Song Kang could act? Okay, we knew Song Kang could act, but who knew that he could be a conventional romance male lead?
무사해서 다행이야.
잠깐 화장실 좀?
내 소중한 케이크.
Hi, you're watching the Drama Notes with Porma. I am an Indian fan of Asian dramas, particularly K-dramas, and today I want to talk about My Demon since it's halfway through its airing schedule and ended on a really good episode, which is episode 8. So, Song Kang, you could rebut me with Nevertheless and Love Alarm. However, in none of those dramas did he ever play a conventional romance hero. Because Song Kang has basically created a career out of playing the Ice Prince, or in colloquial terms, a fuckboy. No offense to him because he's done an exemplary job and he has been very loved in all of his roles. The one time he did try to play a conventional male lead right before this one in Weather and Forecasting, was it Forecasting and Love? The one with Park Min-young. It wasn't the best written and he couldn't infuse it with enough charisma. What Song Kang tends to do really well is this boyish charm mixed with a kind of like Ice Prince indifference, where his characters are impenetrable, like you don't know what he's thinking. However, My Demon doesn't really suffer from those problems. Probably because the way his character is written, the boyish aspects that he's really good at showing, and also like sincerity and sweetness, all of that really makes this character particularly charming. Now, traditionally, with fantasy romance dramas where you have an immortal male lead, directors and writers tend to envision him as a slightly more mature man. Usually it's an actor in his mid to late 30s. Think of Gong Yoo when he played Goblin. He was in his late 30s. Lee Dong-wook, definitely late 30s when he played the fox in Tale of the Nine-Tailed. And then you had another fox played by Jang Kyung in My Roommate is a Kumiho. At the point when that drama came out, I think he was just turning 30, but he still looks like he had that mature look where, you know, the actor is slightly bulked up. He carries the maturity in his appearance. And in visual cinematic language, what creators want to show by casting these kind of actors is like the experience of centuries. Men in their 30s and 40s are already respected, especially when they have established positions in society. So it's easy to connect that maturity and that experience with the centuries of immortal experience, which is why the casting of Song Kang for Jeong Gu-won's character is so interesting, because he doesn't have that. The actor is 29 years old, which I just found out today, but he looks like he just graduated school, which makes it a unique choice to have him play this 200-year-old immortal. But only until the drama starts, because then you realize that Gu-won is kind of an airhead, and having somebody who does charming, boyish, petty, and vain really well may actually have just been a genius-inspired decision. I'm not complaining. I think Song Kang is doing a really good job. Do I think that there are gaps in his performance that could have been filled by a different actor? I do. At no point do you actually feel those centuries that he must have lived, but that can't solely be attributed to the actor's performance. The writing doesn't dwell on those centuries much either. Aside from Jeong Gu-won occasionally breaking into these monologues about how humans are insignificant and he doesn't much talk about all of the history that he has lived through, which leaves the audience a bit rootless when it comes to thinking of exactly how old he is and how much experience he must have had. That's something that dramas like Tale of the Nine-Tailed or Goblin, of course, did really well, because they occasionally sprinkled in references to things that have happened in, you know, past decades or even past centuries. And that kind of sense of history contributed greatly to the epicness of their stories, but especially Goblin's, because honestly, Tale of the Nightingale does not compare to Goblin, not at the same level. That epicness requires you to dwell a little on the past to show the male leads, the immortal leads history. If we switch that to Hotel del Luna, and Ayu's character, they showed you at different points how she lived through different eras of Korea. That she wasn't always like buying cars and diamonds and, I don't know, having champagne for breakfast. All of which really contributed to the age of her character. The writer and directors of My Demon don't really want the audience to dwell too much on the age of the character, and I'm not opposed to it. The writer, by the way, is Choi, who also did the adaptation for Mr. Queen, which may as well have been an original script because I had watched the Chinese web drama it was adapted from, and the screenwriter really showed her gift in creating the scenarios and the dialogues, and just like it's very clear that she's a gifted writer. And that's clear again in My Demon. I don't think this is an adaptation. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I could not see any reference to any adaptation, and I think this is an original work. What most impressed me about the story is A, it's really simple, doesn't make you think a lot. B, it doesn't matter that it's simple, it still feels really engaging. And a large part of that is C, the dialogues, which are sparkling and energetic and also reasonable, things that you would say in those situations. Things go back and forth really quickly, all of which greatly contributed to creating some of the most interesting relationships in the drama. Before we delve into that, I want to talk about the casting that I am truly so happy about, which was Kim Yoo-jung. Kim Yoo-jung, my girl, I have waited years at this point for her to come up with something that is just deserving of her acting skills. I also really wanted her to do more contemporary dramas because she's kind of built up a reputation of being a sago queen. She's done a few contemporary dramas in the last few years. One was Clean with Passion Now, and the other was Backstreet Rookie. In both, for some bizarre reason, she was paired with actors who were more than a decade older than her, which is not something I understand, because right now Kim Yoo-jung is 24 years old. Back when Backstreet Rookie and before that Clean with Passion Now came out, she must have been 20, 21. And it's not always so difficult to swallow when there is a large age gap between actors, but there was something about how young Kim Yoo-jung looked in these dramas next to her co-stars, but also the fact that she wasn't doing any other contemporary dramas where she was also paired with actors her own age, which I don't think was like an active choice. I think that just happened to be the case. Happily, one of the best things about My Demon is how close in age Song Kang and Kim Yoo-jung look. They are, I think, like I said, Kim Yoo-jung is 24, Song Kang is 29, but they look even closer in age. And that itself really helps smooth out a certain dynamic that always crops up when you pair an immortal with a human. Aside from the fact that pretty much from the second meeting, Kim Yoo-jung's character, Do-hee, suddenly finds herself with the tattoo that gives the demon his power. Jeong Gu-won never really comes across as somebody who would in any way overpower her, not even to teach her a lesson or scare her a little bit. He just never gives off that vibe, and that's nice. It's a nice change. That's all I'm going to say about that. The best part, though, was their chemistry, which was present from the very first moment where she mistakenly sits at his table and starts talking to him, then speaking completely in cross purposes. But it doesn't matter. The chemistry is immediately apparent, and the dialogue is just so good. It sounds very normal, but the thrust and parry of the exchange is just so on point, so well done. And the actors both really sparkle in those scenes where they are together. Song Kang especially, I've noticed that he is best in his scenes with Kim Yoo-jung. I'm so happy seeing her in this drama. She's doing the part of a 29-year-old CEO, and she looks like a baby, but it doesn't matter because she started acting so early in life. She's always had this gravitas to her. If you've seen her in variety programs, she is a baby sombe to actors who are considerably older than her. And she carries herself like that, like somebody who is responsible and has good advice for her juniors and takes care of them. Like she always carries herself like she's 10 years older than she actually is, which I suppose really contributes to how well she performs as a character like Do-hee. My second favorite, no, actually, this is my favorite relationship, whereas the romance is my second favorite. My favorite relationship on this show, the reason I got mad hooked, the foundation for the plot pretty much, starts with Do-hee's relationship with her adoptive grandmother, played by Kim Hye-suk. They are splendid together. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed all of their scenes in the first few episodes, especially because this is not even completely unadulterated. This is not just like a normal grandmother and granddaughter. There are secrets in Madam Joo's heart, which she can't talk about. She is clearly hiding something horrible from Do-hee, but also from the very beginning, the dialogues between them, the way their relationship is shown, it's meaningful and touching, and you can see that no matter what secret Madam Joo may be hiding from Do-hee, she loves that girl. Like her love for Do-hee is the best thing in her life. And you see that in dialogues like when she tells Do-hee that you must find somebody whom you would be okay with even if they backstab you. And you are that person for me. And then Do-hee turns around and says that, well, you are that person for me. And it's just so unhealthy. Yet that's true, that's human, that's what you want in your life, and hopefully it's reciprocal, because otherwise that's really bad. Also, don't backstab your loved ones. But that relationship from the very beginning completely grounded me to the story. So when a few episodes later Madam Joo died, and which I hated that, damn it. However, I'm so happy that they keep bringing her back, in her memory to have these little conversations. But oh my god, the second stage of the plot took off like mad. Everything was so spot on. They had already built up the toxicity of her family so well that scene at the funeral party was insane. That was so good. But also Do-hee's motivations made so much sense from that lens. She's not just pursuing the chairmanship of a corporation, which at 29, even if she didn't have murderous relatives trying to assassinate her, it's highly unlikely that most boards would have approved her candidacy, just because of how young she is and how stick in the mud most boards tend to be. But I don't care. The plot is so good because Do-hee's motivation is just so spot on. She does not want the corporation to go into the hands of the family who wouldn't allow an autopsy of Madam Joo's body. She wants justice for the woman who has raised her, has always supported her, and been her one and only family pretty much. And that honestly is enough groundwork for us to understand why Do-hee would risk her life, constantly putting herself at the center of a target, even though she has nearly lost her life so many times, and still pursue a goal that is not really her own ambition. Which brings me to the second leads of the drama. First, Lee, whose character Sok-hun is playing this step cousin, clearly, a puppy second lead, but who has also given us glimpses where you're like, is he actually the final mastermind? Because there are moments like when he is sitting Go-won down at the bar and he's like, I think you're immortal. I'm gonna keep my eyes on you, and if you do anything wrong, I will expose your secrets. To which Go-won is like, haha, I'm not scared. And Sok-hun responds to that by saying, yeah, I'm not a scary guy, but I'm really persistent. And just like a termite, I can keep eating at your house until it all comes crumbling down. And at that point, I started wondering, is this guy actually planning the downfall of the No family, which is Madam Joo's children and grandchildren? Does this guy have it out for the same family? Could he be a potential ally? Because the guy has a dark side, very clearly. And I hope that that's the case. But if he does turn out to be the mastermind, I wouldn't be disappointed. Like, our current villains are fine for the halfway mark, but no junior and no senior are very obviously on the nose with their villainy, which makes them less interesting as final villains. Also, there are these moments that kind of make it less likely that either of them is pulling the strings, because right after Do-hee says, "I'm giving up my candidacy," and walks out with Gu-won chasing after her and going, "Did you give it up for me?" And she's like, "No, you are weak now and can't even protect yourself. That's why I did it." Which, as an aside, this trope of hurting your loved ones so as to prevent them from worse hurt later is not my favorite, but the situation is extreme enough. He just went through a near-death experience. I can maybe excuse it this one time. Anywho, while this entire conversation is happening, the father and son are listening to it from a few floors above through this glass front. Not listening exactly, because there's no way they are within hearing range. Although he wasn't shouting, she was speaking in a perfectly normal voice. Like, people standing 10 feet away from them wouldn't have been able to hear what she said. So they shouldn't be able to either. Except the scene cuts to somebody texting the henchman that there's something wrong with Gu-won's powers. The implication being that it's the son or the father. Except they couldn't possibly have heard that conversation. Which brings us back to Suk-hun, who is more likely to have figured it out. He does seem to be smarter than our villains are. Or maybe there is somebody else in the shadows that we haven't met yet or haven't figured out. Let's see. The other second lead that I want to talk about is Jin Ga-young, played by actress Do-hee Madam Joo. I don't love her characterization. She's very typical bitchy, hostile, violent female second lead. Which is a shame, because they actually gave her a really great backstory last week, where we find out that she was a little kid who had an abusive father, until one day Gu-won arrives to, make good on the deal. So the father dies and she's saved, otherwise she would have died. And she chases after him, asking him to take her along. But he's like, "I don't make deals with kids, so nothing doing." And then she grows up and finds him again, so she can be his human companion. And that kind of characterization, like when you give somebody a backstory like that, that takes spine, right? She pulled herself out of the situation she was in, which was horrible and very underprivileged, to becoming one of the top performers in the country. But the way they show adult Jin Ga-young is a petulant, rude woman whose obsessiveness constantly ignores Go-on's very clear disinterest. And again, we are really hardwired to already dislike female second leads like this, because the traits that create this woman aren't reasonable. Like, she is volatile and jealous, and the kind of person whom you would not be surprised to find out that she has backstabbed the main couple because the man refused to be with her, so she went and colluded with the main villain to hurt them both. And I really hate that. When you have only one other woman of the female lead's age, and she is this vitriolic, hostile, uncontrollable force of destruction, pretty much. Is it really necessary? Because the rest of the drama seems to be trying to rise above a lot of very conventional writing, but for some reason with this female second lead, it has fallen straight down into the basest level possible. And it actually has an effect on the story, aside from the fact that you hate looking at Jin Ga-young whenever she comes on screen. You wish she wasn't there. There is a moment in episode 8 when Jin Ga-young goes up to Do-hee and is like, "You are acting selfishly by using Gu-won despite the danger to him." Now, it clearly had never occurred to Do-hee that Gu-won could suffer any danger. She thought all the danger was hers, which was stupid. Of course, somebody's trying to kill you. If there are people who are trying to protect you, they will be in the way of danger. But probably because Gu-won has so confidently shown himself as a demon, a magical creature, she hasn't really understood that he could be in danger. So this needed to be pointed out as a pivotal point that allows her to introspect, which the drama does really well. It follows up on that thought really well. But because it's Jin Ga-young who brought the point forward, it wasn't brought forward with clean motivation. Because she's not just acting out of concern for Go-won, she wants to break Go-won and Do-hee off. She doesn't care that Go-won would be giving up somebody he truly, genuinely cares about and is falling in love with. She just cares that he is not going back to the demon who was incapable of loving anyone, which was, I suppose, more acceptable to her than him caring for someone and that someone not being her. I think that line would have been better delivered by somebody like the general manager of the foundation, which is Go-won's right-hand man, because that man genuinely loves Go-won and has been Go-won's human companion for generations. So somebody like him, while he's really worried about Go-won, telling Do-hee that her single-minded pursuit of her goals is putting Go-won in danger at a time when he's really vulnerable because he doesn't have his powers, I think would have had more impact. Or they could have characterized Jin Ga-young differently and not made her the way she is. I don't really love the characterization of performers as divas and rude, overly emotional artists, because that's a dismissive language that's generally used by organizers and producers and not always with the cleanest intent. There are, of course, divas, but that's not most performers. Anywho, there's one other aspect of Jin Ga-young's character that I wanted to highlight, which was the complete absence of any relationship dynamic between Jin Ga-young and Jeong Gu-won. As in, you can see her violent emotions towards him, but you see an absolute blank from his side. Now, if he's allowed her to stay around him while she knows his secrets, there has to be some amount of history there. Does he feel guilt that he had to take her father's life more or less in front of her? Or does he feel affection towards her the way, a parent would feel towards a child? Does he tolerate her because she knows his secret? Though he doesn't seem overly concerned with people knowing his secret. He just does magic wherever. Nobody seems to actually try to hide his identity. I am actually surprised it took 200 years for his secrets to be revealed and for somebody to try and kill him. This drama just makes Go-won look dumb. He doesn't seem like the sharpest tool in the drawer. Like, think about when he leaves that book, that demon manual, around. I thought that was like just a gag between friends, the way the Dokibi underwear thing was a gag between the Grim Reaper and the Goblin. Nobody thought that was an actual weakness that could be used against the Goblin. Just like I did not think that manual could actually be found by actual villains to do substantial harm to our hero. I thought that was just a silly joke that he kept leaving that manual around and the general manager kept finding it. But that was an actual weakness. He couldn't even put it inside a safe. It's not just an inconspicuous looking book. It's got like a gem right in the middle of it glowing at people. Do the cleaners not find that man? Does everybody know his secret? I really love writer Choi ability to accelerate romance at a pace that just makes sense. Like, while I was really enjoying the trope of her falling first, him falling harder, there are these pivotal moments that happen with Jeong Gu-won. When he first realizes that he's falling for her, he becomes defensive and he's like rude towards her, tries to push her away. But then she's in trouble, he saves her, and at that point something unlocks in him and he decides to at least enjoy it while it lasts. Like, he's enjoying his own emotions towards her. Whenever he's close to her, he's liking that. When they are forced to kiss because they were hiding, he clearly loves that. Both of them like that. And then he sort of like hid away the little picture that came out of the photo booth. He's really enjoying all of this stuff while thinking that once he has his powers back, all of these emotions will go away. He'll no longer feel these pangs and aches, and he should just enjoy it while it lasts. You can kind of see his thought process through these episodes. And then, of course, he has his brush with death, really, really close brush. And things start to accelerate at that point. both of them start just like constantly hugging each other. The skinship excuses ratchet up to the nine. Nobody's even pretending at this point. They're just hugging each other and pretending that it has something to do with magic when it barely does. But also, all of those conflicts about whether Jeong Gu-won is ready to really risk his life and the life he is known to fall in love with this human, and whether Do-hee is ready to risk Jeong Gu-won's life to pursue her goals. All of those things are happening simultaneously in the background. Those questions are coming up. One is dealing with an existential crisis, the other one is dealing with a moral crisis. It made episode 8 so fun to watch. And finally, like I said, the dialogues are just so damn good. But there are times when I am just a little bit stunned at how well the writer has connected different points and different relationships. In this case, about 2/3 into episode 8, you have a moment where Do-hee is contemplating whether or not to let go of her revenge/corporate takeover plans, and an imaginary Madam Joo stands next to her, saying what Madam Joo most likely would have said in real life. It really does sound like something that maybe she has told Do-hee before. And what she says is, do what's best for you. To which Do-hee says, but what about what's best for you? And then Madam Joo says, what's best for you is best for me.
날 위한 선택이야.
And then at the end of the episode, after Go-won confirms that Do-hee really did give up that path for him, he finds her in Madam Joo's greenhouse and he tells her to
널 위한 선택을 해.
do what's best for her, because what's best for her is best for him.
그게 나를 위하는 거야.
That echo of what Madam Joo said in that imaginary conversation, call back to that point at the end of the episode where the real Go-won is saying that to Do-hee. That is just so smart, because A, that shows that Go-won is exactly the kind of man that Madam Joo had wanted for Do-hee. B, those were the words that Do-hee knew that Madam Joo would have said. And here was Go-won saying them to her. It's choices like this in writing that makes the viewing experience so much richer. Because no matter how good the performance, if the writing doesn't support a believable arc in the romantic relationship, you just don't feel that invested. And I feel very invested, which is why I'm going to try my best not to let my hopes get too high, because second halves in K-drama land are just not for the faint of heart. However, if the second half doesn't fall off a cliff and also stab us in the back, I guess I will hopefully be back with another longish episode talking about what happens in the next 8 episodes. Bye.